where did we conclude that pain is something that must be eliminated at all costs? And so we'll do all types of things to get rid of it. Or we've concluded that if we have pain, then it must mean something's wrong with us, that we did something wrong, or our marriage isn't a good marriage, and so we need to get out, or our finances, we need to find some other kind of solution to fix that problem. We're always looking for the fix. When in essence, what I have come to discover and what I believe God revealed to me is that pain is not the problem, it's actually the pathway. Pain is not the enemy, it is actually an invitation. Because what pain actually means is to pay attention. I need. P.A.I.N. Pay attention. I need. Thank you for joining me again for the Girl Just Feel podcast, where faith meets mental health and healing starts with feeling your feelings. I'm your host, Dr. Ajane Gaylord, and I would love if you would subscribe and share the podcast. I've been enjoying meeting you here, sharing my heart, and I hope that you have been enjoying being here too. This may be one of the most challenging podcasts that I've recorded to date. And I've been vulnerable and honest here. I haven't hidden much. It was hard for me to decide to talk about this today. I shared on the last episode about why I didn't want to get married and, confessed that it's still a journey for me. Funny enough, the day before the episode was to air, I went to a family event. A family friend of ours had an event and ran into a couple that we know. And immediately the wife shared, like, we were just in a, discussion at home or on the way here, and kind of just sharing a little bit of her woes in marriage. And they've been married about as long as me and my husband have been, over 20 plus years. And to some degree, they're almost empty nesters. And to some degree, there was this expectation that we've been married so long, we're together, we're believers, we love each other. Why are we still having conflict? Why are we still basically, and what I shared with her was having the same fight we've been having almost our entire relationship. And I shared with her that in most situations, it is, or in most relationships, especially a marital relationship, there's usually only one issue. And I know that doesn't make any sense. You're like, no, there are tons of issues. There's lots that we could deal with. No, there's really only one. And it's expectations, how we manage expectations. And usually we have unmet expectations, unexpressed expectations, or unrealistic expectations. And that's really what leads or boils down to most conflict in relationship. We expect of the other to meet a need that we haven't even told them about, and we may not even be aware of, and yet we expect them to meet it. And when they don't, we get disappointed and sad and frustrated and irritated and all the things. Or we've expressed our expectation, we've expressed our need, and they still haven't met it for whatever reasons, right? Like, we want something and we've communicated it and we've shared it, we've talked about it, we've prayed about it, we've been discussing it for years, and yet they still fail us in that area or don't do what we are looking for them to do, and vice versa, right? So it's not just one-sided, it could be vice versa. Or the last one that I often consider is unrealistic expectations. We want something that really our partner cannot give us. We're looking for them to do something or to be something, or in a family relationship between parents and children, between coworkers or employers and employees, whatever kind of relationship, we're looking for something that really they cannot meet, whether it's because of a lack of resources on their part, a lack of character, unwillingness, or maybe they just don't have the resources or what they need. And so we then are still, the result ends up being, whether it's unmet, unexpressed, or unrealistic expectations, the result is still the same. We're disappointed and we are hurt because we didn't get what we needed. And I'm having this conversation with these friends of ours and thinking about my own husband who was with me, and we were just discussing. And what came up as we carried on in the conversation had to do with adult children and empty nesting and finances and parenting and church and community and you name it. Most of what we talked about, there was one singular root, and it was pain. Some kind of ache, some type of tension, some type of yearning, friction. In all of our conversation, there was in each area some measure of difficulty or challenge and an expectation that it should not be that way. At the core of everything we were talking about, and we started the conversation talking about marital issues, and then we talked about parenting and adult children and all these subjects, there was one singular core issue, and that was pain. And what came to be so telling was the fact that we have an expectation that there should be no pain. If our marriage is a Christian marriage and we've been together for, 20 plus years, in this case, the husband is a pastor, the wife is a teacher, serves and in the community, and they love people and people love them and all the things, the expectation is we should not still be having struggles. If I am, and I've shared this, I have, medical issues and health issues, and I've been working really hard to address my health issues, trying to eat right, drink enough water and hydrate, take enough supplements, do enough exercise. And I've worked hard at doing all the things. There's an expectation that my body should not hurt. I should have addressed the inflammation. I should have addressed the gut issues. All of this effort that I'm putting in should fix it, and I should not feel any more pain. We have an expectation of parenting that if we do, quote unquote, everything right, which, as you are aware, none of us are perfect and we cannot do everything right, but we strive to do what's right by our children. And we still may have a child who walks away from us and from the Lord. And we do not expect that when we do the right things, when we follow God, when we honor Him, that things will not go the way we want them to go. But here's what I'm learning in my journey to healing. And I've spent years and years and years striving and praying and yearning and working to be well, to be healed, to end the pain. But what I've come to learn is that pain is not the problem. I have thought for so long that because I still deal with chronic pain in my body every single day, something must be wrong with me. I even believe and struggle with the idea that if my husband and I, despite the fact that we both love the Lord, despite the fact that we both love each other, despite the fact that we work really hard to have a good marriage, that if we have any struggles, any challenges, any pain, then that must mean something's wrong with the marriage. And I have come to understand that you and I do not understand what pain actually is. It's a lie that we have adapted, which is that pain is something that we need to run away from, something we need to hide, something we need to suppress, and something we need to get out of and end as quickly as possible. Most of us have a belief that pain means there's a problem. Pain means something is wrong with me. But can I invite you to re-examine how you see pain? I've spent so much of my energy trying to get rid of pain. So let me just confess, I have been the capable one, the high achieving one, the hardworking one who will do what I have to do, get what I have to get, do whatever it takes to try to get the outcome that I'm looking for, that I'm hoping for. I've shared this before in my own marriage, in my parenting, in homeschooling, in homemaking, in my business, in all of these areas where I've been learning so much about what pain actually is, what it actually is not. And the more I yearn for answers from the Lord, and the more I seek healing, and the more I'm trying to rid myself of what I deem to be unnecessary, what I'm discovering is that pain is not actually the problem. What I realized as we were sharing all of these different subjects was that we share different joys and difficulties in all of these different categories. But what really stood out to me was when we discussed what we didn't like, what we didn't want, or what we didn't expect, that is where we experience the most pain. And instead of just looking at it as a way for us to add to our resources, like I talked a few weeks back about what stress actually is, it's just we've come to the end of our resources. There is a demand, there's a need, and now we've exhausted what we currently hold, and there is a call to meet a new need. And that's really simply all it is. And it's called stress. But we often have a misunderstanding and misapplication of what pain actually is. Most of us have been taught that we need to get rid of it as fast as possible. We need to eliminate it as quickly as we can. And more importantly, what we actually believe is that pain means something is wrong with me. Not just that I have a need, not just that there's a new demand that has to be addressed, not that, hey, this is shining a light on something. This is really at the core of how we engage and how we relate to the pain that we experience, whether it's in our marriages. We have an expectation that because we love the Lord and we love each other, nothing should ever go wrong. We have an expectation that if we do and check the list and complete all of the things and follow all of the godly mature examples, that we should never encounter anything difficult. But can I tell you that that's not even the message of the gospel? The gospel itself is a picture of the most difficult, challenging, horrible conditions that Christ died on the cross, a horrible death, in order to bring life. It seems oxymoronic to us. It seems unfair to us. It seems like it doesn't make any sense that if we're doing the right things or if we are following God, that we should never experience pain. Let me tell you, um, the more I read the scriptures and the more I come to understand even the fall of man, if we go all the way back to Genesis and we look at how God intended for us never to know evil, the intention was for us to be in paradise with him, to have an existence that was just wonderful for all eternity and to never know anything else. It was a enemy of ours who introduced an idea that God was holding out on us and that we needed to take it into our own hands, which is what led to the fall of mankind. But even in that, God, as I've shared before, gave us a solution. He gave us the remedy because he gave us himself. He didn't just abandon us to ourselves and to our sin. He actually meets us right in the middle of it. And he came down, wrapped himself in flesh, came as the Son of Man to die, live a life that was holy and without sin, and then die a horrible, horrible death in order to be resurrected in power so that we can have eternal life. That's the gospel. The gospel is not free of pain. So where do we get this from? Where did we conclude that pain is something that must be eliminated at all costs? And so we'll do all types of things to get rid of it. Or we've concluded that if we have pain, then it must mean something's wrong with us, that we did something wrong, or our marriage isn't a good marriage, and so we need to get out, or our finances, we need to find some other kind of solution to fix that problem. We're always looking for the fix. When in essence, what I have come to discover and what I believe God revealed to me is that pain is not the problem. It's actually the pathway. Pain is not the enemy. It is actually an invitation. Because what pain actually means is to pay attention. I need. P.A.I.N. Pay attention. I need. What pain actually is doing is shining a light on something that needs to be addressed. Most of us see it as something that we need to avoid, we need to hide, we need to get rid of, we need to medicate, we need to mask, when actually pain is inviting us to meet our very needs. For example, if we look at what's happening with my health, I have shared before how I've been dealing with some chronic health problems most of my adult life, even before, but I'll just say most of my adult life. And the most of the symptoms that I deal with is primarily inflammation and chronic pain, unrelenting, unyielding, widespread pain in my body. Other symptoms too, I've had all types of things happening. And as anyone else would, when the symptoms first started, you do what you're supposed to do. You go to the doctor and you have them examine you, run some tests, and see if they can figure out what's going on. Unfortunately for me, most of the time, there would be no clear explanation for what was happening. I remember I've shared about having the heart palpitations, having brain fog and fatigue. Fatigue, that's the other one. So, inflammation, pain, and fatigue, those are the ones. So, physical fatigue, mental and emotional fatigue, too, is not just physical only. Um, so, dealing with these different symptoms, and I would have various symptoms that would come and go. So, I'd have, for example, for a while, I had dry eyes for a really long time, and I ended up getting a scratch on my cornea. I had to go to an eye doctor to get it repaired. They kept asking me, do you wear glasses? Do you wear contacts? Did you scratch it? No, I didn't wear glasses. I didn't wear contacts. So it wasn't from me misusing my contacts. I didn't wear them. And he basically gave me some, remedies and some eye drops, and basically said, kind of keep an eye on it. And then that symptom dissipated. I never had that issue again, or at least I haven't to date. Or I would have other issues come up, especially joint pain or aches in different places, or I'd have to go to physical therapy to address this issue, or I'd have to go to a rheumatologist to try to get some tests to get that issue, or get an x-ray for this or MRI for that. And I've gone around and around and around, spent lots of money, lots of time, lots of energy trying to figure out what was wrong. Because if I'm in pain, something must be wrong. And really, as I've exhausted all of those options and still don't have a diagnosis, still don't have a clear explanation for what's happening, I got weary, as you could imagine. I got frustrated for sure, sad, angry, all the feels. I got all of them because I had exhausted the path, the way that you typically go to figure out why you're hurting, why you're struggling, why your health is so challenging. I've had hormonal issues and weight gain and weight loss and weight this and weight that and all of the things, and still couldn't get any answers because my goal was to get rid of the symptoms. My goal was to end the pain. My goal was to stop what was hurting me. But what I've come to learn is God had a different plan. His goal was for me to see what I actually needed. As I learn more about how pain is actually a protector, I mean, think about it. If you were to, stub your toe, and obviously it's going to hurt when you hit it against something, because hitting it is going to cause injury, damage, right? And so the pain is a signal to say, hey, wait a minute, you need to protect your toe. So you hit the toe and immediately jump. Most of us, we react, just knee jerk. We don't even think about it. We just have a impulse reaction to avoid what's hurting us, right? And so if you just think about in a practical sense, if I were to hit my toe on the wall, I'm going to jerk back, I'm going to remove my toe so that I'm not causing any more pain, because your body is telling you something is about to cause you injury, and the goal is to stop something that's going to hurt you, something that's going to injure you, something that is going to damage you. And so there is a whole mechanism, a whole system, a whole way that God has created us in order for our bodies to signal and to respond, and even to go through the process of, if I did, injure the toe, it's going to hurt until it's healed. Why? Because I need to protect it. If my toe didn't hurt while it was still unhealed, I would go about functioning and operating as I normally would, not protecting it, and maybe cause more damage. So is it not the same with us when it comes to our relationships, our emotions, our finances, our community, our churches, our feelings? Like, isn't it the same that if something has the potential to injure us, how God made us is to respond to that with a pain that leads to protection until we are well enough healed and my toe is fully functional again and can operate fully again. So there is a period of time where my toe needs to be protected. There's a period of time where my relationship needs to be protected. There's a period of time where my finances need to be protected. Whatever the subject is, the key here is that we have come to believe that pain means something is wrong. And so I have to end the pain, get rid of it, stop it, push it to the side, hide it, and just eliminate it. When pain is actually trying to get our attention so that we can figure out what it is that we need. Do we need safety? Do we need security? Do we need protection? Do we need boundaries? If you think about a relationship that's abusive, a relationship that's toxic, and we're good for using terms and throwing out words and protecting my peace and all these things that we talk about, but do we really know what we're saying? Because is it that we need to end the relationship, or is it that we need to set boundaries with the person in order to move forward in a healthy way with them? This is really shining a light on something that I believe, especially in the body of Christ, we have gotten wrong. We have demonized pain. We have demonized emotions, right? When we say don't get emotional, it's usually with a negative context, meaning don't feel anger, don't feel sadness, don't feel frustration, because that means something is wrong. No, actually, it means everything could be right. It can actually mean that there is just a need we have not met yet. Let me explain this too, because I've discovered this in the last few years, and it just blew me away. Because when we have the trauma conversation, we often talk about trauma as an event, and oh, that was traumatic, or that was a trauma, and I've discussed this before, and we often look at traumas as something that happens to us. But really what trauma is how what happens changes us. But we don't often look at trauma as something that didn't happen, that should have happened, and how that changed us. That's an unmet need. What we have discovered in the research is that in most cases, the most damaging form of abuse is neglect, when needs are not met. Not always when other types of abuse. We often think about verbal or emotional or sexual abuse, and that being damaging, and it is. And it is devastating, and it has lasting consequences. But more so than anything else, what's more damaging than the other types of abuse is neglect, unmet needs. And we want to get rid of the pain so much that we don't pay attention to the need. Because if we meet the need, usually we address the pain. If we meet the need, again, even when it comes to stress, this demand that now shows up, now we have to gain resources. We grow, we gain wisdom, we gain insight, we gain perspective. There's so much that happens when the need is met. But from the initial need showing up to when we actually meet it, there's this mechanism in the middle that is often what we try to avoid. And then that is what leads us to still being in lack. So if I had to share with you what God is sharing with my heart and how I'm walking through this journey to change my relationship with pain, to see it in a new way, to see it not as something that is interfering with a joy-filled life, not as something that is an enemy that I must eliminate, not as a nuisance or a bother or something that I just have to get rid of in order to get victory. If I am to begin to really walk in the freedom and the healing and the deliverance that I believe God has for me, what I have to do is to see pain for what it actually is. Pain is an invitation. It's communication of a need that has yet to be met. And when I sit still with God long enough in the pain, then that's when I get to meet him for who he is, where he is, what he provides. I get to know him in ways that I would not have known him if I had never experienced pain. I think we believe this lie that we cannot have gratitude for the good things in our lives and suffer grief at the same time. We think there's a separation between the two, that we can't hold grief and gratitude together. But can I tell you that the message of the cross is a representation of that very thing? That God the Father had to turn away from his son who had taken on the world's sin for a moment, for a brief moment, in order to redeem us. Christ had to endure this difficult, terrible, horrible, devastating, violent death in order to bring everlasting life for those of us who choose to believe. What beautiful mess that is, that we get to experience the resurrection power from the fellowship of his suffering. I want you to change the way you now see pain. Pain is not the problem, it's the pathway. Pain is not an interruption, it's an invitation. Now, we're going to talk over these next few weeks about how we even can figure out what we need. But I want us to begin to start to see that the ache that we are experiencing is trying to get our attention, because there's something that we need that we haven't yet received. And there is nothing wrong with being in need. There is nothing wrong with not yet having what it is you believe you should have, and trusting God to provide your need. He said he shall supply all of our need according to his riches and glory by Christ Jesus our Lord. That's his promise to us. So if we can begin to, even when I was talking to my friends about marriage and parenting and community and church and family and relationships and dreams and goals and business and all the things we discussed, I didn't have to leave that conversation discouraged. I didn't have to leave that conversation scratching my head like, why am I going to figure all this stuff out? How am I going to make it all work? It helped me to remember, if I experience pain, it means to pay attention. I need something. I need someone. I need to find safety. I need security. It means there's something that I need, and it is okay for me to get it. Thank you for joining me. I want to leave you with this life work, and I want you to write down, what pain am I in, and what does that pain tell me I need? Just pay attention. Whether, for in my case, I have physical pain in my body, and what I'm coming to learn is that most of the time it's because I have a lot of tension in my muscles, right? Because it's an emotion. That's an emotional response that I often have to danger. I get tense because of stress, anxiety, all the things. That's the emotional response that I often have. And the feeling that goes along with that emotion can be sadness sometimes. It can be frustration sometimes. It can be anger sometimes. And my muscles get tense. And what I need is to relieve the tension. So I'm in pain because I didn't relieve the tension. I didn't release the tense muscle ache. And so I'm still hurting. That may not be all that I need, but I'm coming to discover and to understand that that is one of the things that I'm recognizing. And so I've learned how to begin to release some of the tension. And does it alleviate a lot of the pain? It does. It does. But because there's more that I need, the pain is not all gone yet. And can I just tell you that it's okay that it doesn't go away forever? So your life work is simple. Pay attention. What do you need? Look at your relationships. Look at your own health. Look at your relationship with God. Look at your finances. Look at your parenting. Look at your business. Look at your all the things, all the areas, all the categories, and just start to pay attention and notice what could be lacking, what could be a need, what could be something that is missing. And don't judge it. Don't judge yourself. Just start to pay attention. I'll see you next time.